just before we crack into graphics for this Bingolett stroke Rialto, in the last episode I did a very short video about this cam, mostly because I was shocked. But I thought I'll put out 3 minutes. It'll be entertaining if nothing else. But I am starting to get a grasp now of how this cam works. If you read the German wiring diagram and you don't speak German, you'll struggle with it. But I have sort of translated it, right? When the machine starts, right, well, let's look at the order of the cams first. Unlike the stepper motors beneath, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, on the cam, they're in the opposite order. So this is 1, and that's 12, because there's 12 altogether, right? When the machine starts, 3 short pulses are sent via cam 3. That's this one, right? This one here. Which sends a 0 setting to all the stepper motors. In other words, it resets them, sets them all back to 0 after a game. They only do it when you start the new game. That's when they're all reset. Okay, so that's what number 3 does, and you can see the relevant notches. It looks like 4 notches, but I guess it's the dips. But anyway, it sends 3 pulses. Click, 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 click. Right now, 4 is the one that sends the pulse to the ball lock. I think they'd better actually turn it around this way to see it. When the game starts, the ball is dropped down to the flipper ready to play, and it's that notch that does it. Then as the cam moves round a little bit more, it'll come close to this notch, and when the ball drops in the ball stop, we'll call it that for whatever, it's briefly there, and then it's released again by that. And then finally, this is the 3rd one for your 3rd ball to play, and then after that there's nothing at all until you come back round to the start position. So that is how that can work. So when it says it sends a pulse to the ball lock, it's this one, and these notches are the pulses. Well, that's useful, isn't it? The more I learn about this cam, the easier it's going to be. And I have looked at that, and I thought, well, if there is only 1 notch, it's not really much of a problem. I can, I've already started to smooth it out a bit. But at a pinch, and as I say, I suspect that this is made out of nylon, I could print brand new ones out of ABS if it came to it. It wouldn't be a problem. That's a possibility. I'll let you know what I did in the fullness of time. Anyway, let's get on to some more exciting stuff. Artwork. I've bought myself a fairly long vinyl plotter cutter from a nice fella called Dave up in Birmingham, who does vinyl graphics for all sorts of stuff. But I figure, because the original Bingolett glass is partly mirror and partly silkscreen printed, when it was made, they didn't have vinyl plotters cutters, and it would give an even colour, especially if I use a transparent one, and I can etch away from the reverse of the mirror the areas of the mirror that I don't want. So that's where we are on the artwork. I've literally just got this. I don't think I'm even going to bother to learn it. I'm going to let my son tackle it, because once we've got the artwork sorted, we can also make ourselves a mask put on the back of the glass and remove all that unwanted mirror. So we should get very, very close to the original Bingolett artwork. And obviously if it's a success and you got a Bingolett and want a new glass for it, we can do one. So that's where we are. Good thinking, isn't it? really. What else would be the alternative when you think about it, really, if you haven't got any glass at all? I still need a good scan of a Bingolett glass, though, to be able to plot everything out. But this is where we're going to start. We are returning to the subject of bulbs. These were the ones that were in the machine originally. The lighting circuit inside the machine is 12 volt, but it was in fact AC. It's a strange thing with these older machines. They always seem to have AC for the bulbs and DC for the rest of the board. And my feeling was, especially running those plastic light housing, you know what tungsten's like, they're not the most efficient bulbs. They put out far more heat than they do light, which is why the LED was invented, of course. I tried these. Wasn't particularly impressed with those. A couple of reasons. One, I felt they were too bright. They look sort of tacky. You know what I mean? It's just a circuit board, and they've just shoved these end caps on it. They worked, you know, as long as you got them in the right polarity. And that's the other thing. Tungsten bulbs, these ones, will run on DC or AC. Now, LED bulbs will also run on AC. It was a question I asked a while back, and come on, focus. And yeah, they will actually run on AC. The only trouble is, because alternating current is sort of going backwards and forwards like that all the time, it means for half the cycle the bulbs aren't actually lit, which gives this sort of flickering effect. Well, wholly annoying. And also, these ones are, I've not actually compared that one to that one, but that is actually fractionally longer, actually significantly longer, aren't they? The modern ones, these festoon bulbs, they do tend to be a bit longer, but that was excessive. It really pushed the clips out. So I went for these, which are just about a mil, they don't look it, but that is actually a mil shorter than that one. And I really like these ones. They're bright, but they don't generate all that heat. They're going to be fairly long lasting, and if you really wanted that sort of yellow glow, they don't do these in warm white. I have looked, and where they do them in warm white, you're looking at £3 or £4. What's that? $4 for two. Bit expensive, isn't it, really? But if you wanted that yellow glow to it, you could wrap it in Captain tape, which is commonly used with soldering, but it's got like a yellow tint to it. You just wrap some around it. That would give you the yellow glow if you wanted to replicate the effect of those ones. But there you go. That's what I've opted for, DC. Now, on DC, the LED will only work one way round. If you've ever tried this in cars, you'll know that you've got to flip the bulb so you find the way it works. On AC, it didn't care, as I say, because for half the cycle it was working, so it didn't care which way it was in. It would still run, but it would flicker. But for DC, you've got to have it the right way round. Once you find that, though, it's not really much of a problem. You put it in, haven't you? There you go. Anyway, that's enough on bulbs. I brought home a lift door. It was going to be scrapped, and but it's got a really tough frame on the back, and I thought, oh, stainless steel worktop, because that's what that is. It's stainless steel. It's got a sort of ribbed finish to it, but it's quite nice, I think. The other thing that came were the long springs for the Bingolett, because the ones that were on here were quite rusty. They're only there really just to guide the ball down to the ball stop, but all the same, look better being a bit newer, wouldn't you think? It's amazing, isn't it, that things tell a story. This is the back to the Bingolett, but this piece of plywood at the back wasn't there. And I deduced that when this machine was originally removed from wherever it was, they couldn't find the keys to the locks that were in here. They'd tried to drill one out unsuccessfully, I think. Gave up and yanked the machine off the wall, leaving the plywood still stuck to the wall, I should think. So I've put the back in it now. There isn't anything really that goes on the back apart from the overflow coin tube, you know, where it hasn't paid out and there's too many coins going in. drops down a tube on the back and into a cash box at the bottom, and that's where all the money sits. So that's why I needed that. And I'm going to put some aluminium brackets in here, screwed to the sides, L-shaped, and I'm going to use those to fasten it to the wall so I can take the weight. But because it's got these hinges, pin hinges, you can lift the front of the machine off, take it away to service it, and put it back on the hinges and close it. And well, ordinarily you'd lock it again. I've just got to try and find some locks for those now. Very difficult to find cylinder locks that are 22mm, but I'll keep looking. If not in short term, I can just put a little catch on it, can't I? I've been playing around with the 3D printer to see if I could actually make these cams. And yeah, I could, but one of the things I thought about was these are only 2mm across, and there's no reason why that can't be wider, looking at the original cam, which would give it more area to ride on. So I actually made them thicker. I've made this out of PLA. I've even managed to put 2 teeth on it, like, just as a test. The only thing I don't like is, for want of a better word, these pips which slot into one of these holes. They tend to be a little bit fragile because I'm using PLA, but I thought rather than do that, because that's how these are slotted together, you could just do it with a piece of metal, which would make the whole thing sturdy and lock everything together. Because there's one shaft, this one that goes down the middle, that's 5mm. So rather than have these, they're fine. They're fine. They don't come off. But these just, you know, they'll, especially using PLA, they'll break off easy. So my thinking is just put a hole right through on both sides and then thread them all onto one of these at the same time as you do that. As long as you get everything in the right order, I shouldn't see any reason why that wouldn't work. And the other thing I was thinking, PLA, it's a very sort of, well, it's the cheapest 3D filament. It's also the easiest to print. But I increased the density in it so it didn't have so much infill. So it is a very sturdy wheel, in all honesty. And you would need just a very minor polish on the outside. That should work quite well. Not that I'm thinking of making the whole thing again, but in theory, yeah, I could make every single one of those and all accurate. What I don't like with these is these notches, which are what lift the leaf switches, close the contacts rather, but they seem a little bit on the weak side to me. So while I'm still working on this, I'm going to think if I can do it a better way than that, without putting any undue wear on the leaf switches. You know, the nice thing about these being plastic is they don't wear the leaf switches out, but these, you know, will over time wear out. So I'll think about that one. But as a proof of concept, and I haven't put it on the very highest setting, that's why you've got that sort of finish to it. Yes, I can make them. So that's pretty cool, isn't it, really? I also need to get the bottom right, because that's very rough and ready on the bottom in there. But other than that, I don't see any reason why that couldn't work. In fact, they could actually have flat bottoms to them, and just bring these up a little bit further at the top. Make the whole thing a lot simpler, but a wider cam wheel so it's got more to ride on. Yeah, well, I'll kind of do that in between other things that I'm doing, but I just thought I'd show you that. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.